Hey guys, give us a minute here. I'm trying to figure out if
That's actually a good question.
Can anybody see 4 up on Instagram? Because it's not showing up. I don't know why, because all the buttons are pushed.
No, it's live. Yeah.
Is it? No?
All right, we're live.
I guess so.
On all three.
Did they watch me pump your coffee?
No, we didn't
That would've
see
been
Nick
great.
pumping them. All right, guys,
I'd like that gift.
we're a little delayed today.
So yeah, sorry about that. I was driving here and someone decided to flip their car upside down and then shut the whole freeway down. So it
Not you.
was not me. I've never flipped it. That would suck to roll over in a car. That's not something I ever want to do. Which is why I don't
text off one of these.
Suzuki Samurai.
Yeah, right.
So yes, this is our weekly Q&A live session, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really have an actual name, but
Live Q&A.
it needs like a Cobra hour, or it needs like a fancy name.
Something with an
Yeah, we should come up with like super duper hour. Anyways, ask us anything, style, format. Certainly, we enjoy answering questions about 034 Motorsport, our products and services, as well as general performance. And I'm Javad Shadzi. I'm the CEO of 034 Motorsport, and this is Nate, our Director of Engineering. And we take a no BS approach to answering questions. We try to cut through the crap and talk about what's really going on. So please don't get too offended. Or conversely, if you have a very offensive question, a very controversial question filled with controversy, as Nick would say, ask that too. Honestly, there's no question you can't ask. I don't believe there's been once where someone asked a question and we didn't answer it. Right?
Well, there's plenty of, nonsense or noise that doesn't always make it to our question list here, but not anything worth substance that even merits.
No, if someone said, "What's your favorite butthole color?" I'd answer it. There's definitely a best butthole color.
I feel like we need to have a different live chat.
That might be
Probably streams at like 6:30 p.m. By
Well, are there a lot of kids on this?
I do mark it as not child friendly on YouTube.
No, it's not child friendly. I have 4 kids. I think that my best strategy with kids is you just traumatize them early, and then the calluses protect them from additional trauma later. Yeah. All right, let's a boomer strategy. That is very boomer. Yeah. Most of us Gen Xers grew up with no parents at home, and we just come home after school.
Yep.
Figure out what to do. All right, let's start with our first question, which is could 034 explain what AMAX is for the B8.5 S4?
Yeah, I think this was a carryover from last week. So
but
AMAX, we've talked about this a couple of times. It's literally if you think about who designed these cars and transmissions, it's going to be the Germans, and they're very literal in their naming often. So AMAX is acceleration maximum, basically. So it's just a strategy that the transmission uses, or the engine can use in some cases, to ensure that you're getting maximum acceleration. With potentially some side effects depending on the transmission, where it might not be as smooth of a gear change, or it might be a little harder on the clutches if it's blending between 2 gears without any power reduction. But it's designed to try and get you the fastest acceleration possible, quickest acceleration possible. So that's what AMAX is,
and it's a blending of the shifting.
Generally in the transmissions, it's normally with a gear change you'll get a wind up to the shift point. The engine cuts power, lets the RPMs drop till the next gear engages, and then you're off and going again. What AMAX does is it'll actually pull the engine RPM down by just kind of grabbing the next gear and just turning on that clutch right away. So it's a little more abrupt. You feel it a little more, but it's generally there for a quicker, no loss power transition, basically.
Yeah, the first time you feel it, where normally you reflexually kind of throw your head forward between shifts because there's a moment of no acceleration. The AMAX shift kind of throws that.
It's the opposite.
And then you kind of don't know what to do with your neck, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa. And you can kind of feel it pulling back on you for that third of a
We
second.
honestly don't use it much at all on the DL501 B8 S4s and things because it's not really needed on the supercharged applications. The fastest times we've cut have been without AMAX, just with our different.
Yeah, and there's no turbo lag.
There's no turbo lag.
Turbo
There's no
cool
reason
down.
to, you're not worried about losing steam on your turbo turbine speeds. So yeah, we haven't really had a lot of need for it in supercharged applications, but turbo stuff does benefit from it. B9 we use it quite heavily on.
This is something I never hear anyone talk about, but the 3.0T B8 supercharged motor has a huge advantage of having no inductive tract whatsoever. So
It's like 6 inches of tube.
air
and
enters
that's
the
it.
throttle body. It goes into this very small plenum, and it gets pressurized right directly into the intake runners of the cylinder.
You want throttle response and just razor sharp pedal control. The B8's hard to beat.
So imagine, when you blow up a balloon, you can feel the air, compressing. Or if let's say you blow into a fixed cylinder, like a cup or something, or you suck on it, you can feel that air, contracting or compressing. Our mouths can only generate so much pressure, maybe like 1 psi at the least. Yeah, but air is very elastic and it does compress, and so when you have a turbo, and then there's a pipe that's 2 feet long that goes to the front of the car to the intercooler, and then you have an intercooler which is huge, big, and that has to fill up with air, and then to generate that 20 psi or whatever of boost pressure, that all has to compress, and then there's another 2 or 3 foot long pipe coming out going back to the throttle body, and then you have this big intake. So there's this huge elasticity in the boost response in a turbo motor. Part of it is how the turbo works. Part of it is just you have this incredible volume that you have to fill and compress.
And it's not like we're talking like 30 seconds or something to fill it up. No. It's like fractions of a second still.
But it's half a second or a third of a second is turbo lag. And it's part of the turbo lag problem. So the B8 does a number of things really well, 3.0T, with the supercharger being directly connected to the crank. So you have instantaneous pressure response there, and then virtually putting the output of the supercharger into the intake holes themselves. All right, what do I do if my flashing portal says no calibration found?
Just contact us, tuning at 034motorsport.com. That just simply means that in most cases, we just need to get your specific file ported or turned on for your that's typically always the case. So
any questions regarding tuning or flashing your car or whatever, is tuning at 034motorsport.com. You're welcome to ask us, and then we'll just tell you to do that, or you can just go do that. So are your downpipes stainless steel? Yes, every downpipe and exhaust product that we sell is stainless steel. Most of them are 304 stainless steel. Some of our older cats, like the B5, B6, B7 cats, they were, I think they're 304 now. But we were doing them in 200 series stainless for a while, which is, it's stainless, it's magnetic. It doesn't rust anything like mild steel, but it would generate a light surface rust film, and it was more than suitable for the application, and it was substantially cheaper, so it allowed us to hit a lower price point. But I believe we've since gone to 304 for everything. All of our Res X's are 304. A number of our downpipes are actually cast 304 stainless. So yes, and all exhaust products should be stainless steel. I don't know, this isn't really a problem anymore, but when I was a kid living in Minnesota, you'd be on the freeway, driving with your parents, and someone's fucking exhaust would just fall off right onto the freeway in front of you and almost kill you. And it's just that cars' exhausts used to be made from mild steel and just would be falling apart.
the entire cars used to be like uncoated, untreated, mild steel. So you have large chunks of vehicle coming at you sometimes.
Yeah, this is no longer a problem. Manufacturers went to stainless steel in the 80s.
Started doing a lot better rust prevention on the vehicle chassis in most cases as well.
But even like galvanized, like tubing, it gives you a little bit more life, but not much. It's Yeah, any reputable company should be using 304 as a great material for exhaust system components. B9 S4, are you testing the TTE 710 and Pure 750 with your high flow racing cat? Want to go stage 2 using a cat, but don't want to swap it later for stage 3? Yes. Any stage 2 files that we're developing are with our own 034 Motorsport Racing catalytic converter. B9 3.0 T, my oil rarely goes over 172 F in cold ambient temps, even after hours of driving. Is this a calibration problem?
We shouldn't be, or to my knowledge, nothing is altered on any of the light load temperature targets. So you can always test with that if you want to rule it out. Just flash the stock file. I mean, you've got a cable there. Likely you have a cable, but yeah, you can always just confirm stock behavior by going back.
You definitely want to get your oil above that for sure, above 212 degrees.
So yeah, no, we don't. There should be no effect on light load normal driving.
Sometimes they take a while to come online and really heat up. If I'm just cruising for 20 minutes to work,
But he says hours of driving.
Yeah.
you could add like
It shouldn't.
Even so, it's based on water temp. So it's
just
got a
shuts the-
circulator that basically
It'll just shut the
shares
thermostat until it hits the target temperature. So. No, I mean it should hit relatively quickly, regardless of the ambient temp. To improve braking performance on Audi S4, should one replace lines over stock? It is one of the things you can do. It's it's not a necessity. Like choosing the right pad compound is kind of a non-negotiable. If you try to go on track with street pads, they're just going to melt. Factory brake lines are good quality and suitable. The only issue they have is that, well, one, over longer periods of time, they won't hold up very well to really high heat environments because they're made from rubber. The other issue is because they're made from rubber. Now they do have like a really rigid aramid fiber reinforcement, so it's not like this expands like a rubber hose or anything, like a plain rubber hose. But the reinforced rubber hose does expand some. So when you apply braking pressure, the master cylinder generates pressure within the brake line, and some of that pressure goes to push your caliper piston, and some of the pressure goes to expand the brake hose. And so you do lose some braking force as well as pedal feel, and you essentially have to apply more pedal pressure to generate the same amount of brake line pressure. So what we and other manufacturers do is nothing new. I think these kind of brake lines were probably used in racing in probably as early as the 50s or 60s or earlier than that. But we use a Teflon hose. So Teflon on its own is flexible but quite rigid. And then the Teflon is encased in a stainless steel mesh sleeve. And the stainless steel mesh sleeve is flexible, but it doesn't expand at all. And so when you apply pressure to the brake pedal, your master cylinder, let's say your master cylinder generates 100 psi of brake line pressure, your brake caliper piston sees all 100 psi of that. And so that not only improves brake pedal feel and performance, but these lines are also very durable. They're DOT approved construction methods, and the stainless steel can obviously withstand any temperatures. And the Teflon itself is inherently a very high temperature material compared to rubber. So those are the advantages of our stainless steel brake lines. They are not a necessity, but if you've done everything else with your brake system, I definitely recommend doing that. And our customers, it's a very popular product line of ours, and we consistently get great feedback from customers who install these and enjoy it. B9 RS5 Tune update. Nothing specific to say other than it is an engineering workflow right now. And do we have a kind of like when what's our internal?
I don't really want to share it yet.
Yeah.
But they're
But I do. So tell me what the date is.
looking like February.
Okay, so yeah, we're shooting for like a February time frame, and that's no promise, but but we are working on it, and that's currently our goal. So February rolls around and someone freaks out and says we said we'd release it in February. We're not saying that. But currently, if everything goes according to plan in engineering, you know, expect something in February. I just want to put that out there so that nobody thinks it's going to be like next August or anything. And I also don't want anyone to think it's next week. So, is it necessary to run an ethanol sensor for your E85 map on B9 S5? No.
It's not. We recommend it for any ethanol.
Well, what are they asking? It almost sounds like they're asking for flex fuel.
Yeah, I think what the question was a little odd. You don't need a sensor to run the file. The sensor, it would only be for a gauge or measuring system for you to look at to know what your ethanol content is. The ECU currently is not going to use any data from an ethanol sensor.
Yeah, the file or our tune just needs or assumes that you have anywhere from E60 to E85 in your tank. It's on you to make sure you have E60 to E85 in your tank. So that's where you're going to want to run a sensor, not because of the file or the tuning, or the car doesn't care whether you have one or not. The car is going to care if you don't put the right fuel in. And so we've been talking about this a lot lately. You want to get a sensor because you want to verify that what came out of the pump is at least E60. You also want to verify it's not E100. You also want to verify it's not like urine or coolant or water.
Or diesel, which has happened around here.
We had a local station fill E85 pumps up with diesel, and we did a couple engine repairs. It was like 30-40 grand for a couple cars that were damaged.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that the gauge does is it tells you when the E85 is actually in your fuel system. So you can have a whole tank of E85, and if you still have 91 going into the injectors at the front of the engine, it doesn't matter how much E85 is in the tank, because all the engine cares about is E85 going in, and that's all the ECU cares about as well. So, when you run your car down close to empty and you go fill it up with the 85, you can watch your gauge and you will see ethanol content go from something very low, maybe 10%.
Yeah, it usually hovers around, well, at least for our fuel, 10 to 15%.
Yeah. And then you will at some point see it climb up to at least E60, E65. Around here, we usually see E80 once the fuel system has circulated. But these are the reasons why you would want to gauge. And I hear people saying, well, fill up your tank and then drive around for 30 minutes. Like, I wouldn't deal with any of that. That seems like a really bad way to try to make sure that you have E85 going to your injectors. Just get a gauge. They're cheap. There's the Fuel It one, which uses the app. P3 has a nice add-on to their gauges. We offer some of the Innovate products as well. AEM has them. I think these are like, what, a couple $100 at the most.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe $300. So, any benefit to installing front end links without coilovers? 8V.5 RS3. Well, there's potentially a few. One is if you have any preload in the stock sway bar, it would allow you to adjust for that. Something there are also times like when you lower your car, you may want to reposition the sway bar and move it up or down a little bit for additional clearance, which the adjustable end links would allow you to do. That particular factory end link uses ball joints on each end, and so there's no slop in those ball joints. The bodies of the end links on the RS3 is like a folded over piece of sheet metal.
Yeah,
it's super chintzy. So I don't know how much flex there is in that assembly, but ours uses a billet connector rod, and it's infinitely more rigid than the factory piece. But yeah, I mean, those are the reasons. You could decide if you'd like to do that or not. Certainly, the springs, the sway bar, the other modification parts are where you're going to actually feel a substantial difference in the performance. Any update on Dynamic Plus for B8, A4, A5, the same Crackle A5 guy? Yes. I believe this was communicated to you on Instagram that we are adding some more crackles to the A4, A5, B8 tune. I don't know when we would release that file update, but yeah, we'd appreciate it if you just hang tight. We are adding the crackles. I don't know if they'll be as much as you like or you're looking for, but
I think we sent him video we're working on already. Yeah.
we did go back, thanks to the feedback, and we did agree that it could use more. There was very little put in. It's certainly less than some of our other files. So, yeah, and maybe in the next few weeks or something we can release something. But hang tight. Crackles are coming. Maybe we should send him a crackle candy bar for now. When he bites it, it makes like crackling sounds.
Rice Krispies.
There's Rice Krispies inside the chocolate. Yeah. Yeah. Pop Rocks would also work. Making an intercooler for MQB and MQB Evo. We are working on one for MQB currently, like 5 years late to the party. And then I guess we are in the process of, we will evaluate it for the Evo as well. I don't know how different that is.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Supposedly similar. Fitment.
Yeah. Okay. So there could be some good news there. But yes, our goal is to produce the best, highest flowing tube and fin MQB intercooler on the market. We don't normally worry too much about competitor products. However, for this particular product, we have sourced a number of supposedly the better options on the market, and we're baselining those so that we can exceed the performance of what's out there. We do want to be able to say that this is the best. The advantage will be that it'll be tube and fin, so it'll be very light and it'll be very efficient. It won't have as much thermal capacity as some of the bar and plate options. However, it'll weigh like half as much. So, and really, the nose of the car is not a place where you want to be putting more weight, especially on a Volkswagen or Audi. Will you?
The practical swap.
Yeah. Is there any? There's no redeeming value to that comment. I'll move on to the next one. Yes, if we don't have enough crackles and you'd like to, go to a competitor file and knock yourself out.
If that's
We are
literally what makes it for you, then
we are
sure.
taking your feedback. It's kind of bizarre. Like, we're literally telling him, we heard you. Stop trolling us.
What you want.
We would like you to wait until we do the thing that you want, and I don't know, maybe the guy just likes drama. I don't know what else we can do. So we're gonna do it anyways, whether you care or not. We're gonna add some more crackles. Will you offer a higher octane tune for S4, S5, B9? We do not have E85 in Canada, and would like to try something more spicy at the drag strip. Oof.
Yes, we will be.
Some sriracha.
So stay tuned. We will have higher octane files coming out for those platforms.
Yes, and it's not a Canada. It's not just a Canada problem. It's
Europe.
UK, Europe, you name it. Apparently, there's not enough freedom out in the world.
Needs more corn.
Needs more American freedom. Been having some misfire hesitation with E85 on the B9 S4 S5. It's happening around the 5,000 RPM range. Any ideas what would be the cause?
Yeah, this goes back to kind of what Javad was talking about earlier with the ethanol gauge. It may be that you're on a fairly high ethanol content and right at the limit of what it can do on a higher air density, colder conditions. We are going to be updating a file to kind of help, alleviate any of that in the future. That'll be coming out fairly soon.
Yeah, so this issue that you're likely experiencing, although you're welcome to email tuning us.
Yeah, we can work further to see if, to try and narrow it down. Based on your description,
Yeah.
It sounds like it's.
We could do some logs, but this is an instance of too much of a good thing.
Yeah.
And so these fuel systems can supply a certain amount of fuel for a certain amount of combustion, and so we are pushing the fuel system and the motor and the turbo to their maximum safe limits. But what happens is when the air gets colder, the air gets more dense. All right, you go back to like elementary school science. And so you are the turbo is and the engine are bringing in the same volume of air, but it's more dense. So there's more oxygen for combustion. So immediately the ECU responds by giving more fuel. Now, when you're running E85, E85 already requires 30% more fuel. It's a less efficient fuel medium than gasoline. There's more energy per unit of gasoline than there is ethanol. And so you need to ingest even more fuel in a fuel system that's already at its practical safe limit. When the temperatures drop, the amount of E85 required to combust that stoichiometric ratio goes up. And so now the fuel system is no longer capable at that low air temperature with that high density of air. The fuel system is no longer able to generate the amount of fuel needed for stoichiometric or the targeted air fuel ratio that the EC wants to see. So there's a couple solutions. We are going to release a new updated file that will simply lower the boost at those temperatures. What this means is once the temperature goes below a certain point, the ECU will request less boost. The turbo will ingest less air, and
To correct that, the turbo is ingesting the same amount of air as it would be previously on the lower amount of boost.
well,
Because we're talking air mass and
the same
here.
with the density, the air mass is the same. But if it's lower boost, then the CFM is going to go down. I'm talking about CFM.
So, I mean, flow. You're still measuring mass.
Yeah, and regardless, the boost pressure goes down, and so with less boost demand, there's less air required to hit that targeted pressure. If it was the same amount of air, the boost pressure wouldn't go down, right? So there has to be a reduction of something coming into the motor. But by reducing the boost pressure, we can also reduce the fuel system demand. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to make less power. The density of air, to Nate's point, is there's still going to be the same amount of air for combustion as, say, there would be when it's warmer out. But since the volume of air will be less, there'll be less need for fuel. And so this problem will go away. The other option would be that you could keep the file as you have it now, and you could add more gasoline to mix down from, say, E80, E85. You can mix it down to E70. And again, now you'll have more gasoline. There's more energy in the gasoline. Fuel system demand goes down. Those are the two ways to deal with it. We prefer to deal with it the first way I described, which is an engineering solution. The second way would be kind of a DIY hack, and it would be up to you guys to even know that. And that's not really the way we want to do things.
It's something you can just fill your tank, go have fun with it. So,
Yep, you just fill it up and you drive, and the ECU does all the things, which is literally what the ECU is for. The ECU is performing, I don't know, millions of calculations every however often, and it's doing that to compensate for all the changing conditions that your brain can't even comprehend.
Yeah, and it's not that we didn't know that this was a thing. It's just that more and more guys are getting into colder air right now, and it's popping up on some vehicles.
Yeah,
so.
it's definitely come up a lot more during the winter.
Now the winter's hit, So, we worked on this, calibrated it to what we think is safe for everybody, correct for everyone. We're just gonna do a couple more refinements to make sure we account for all of the different fuel, ethanol contents out there.
Yeah. So who's saying this? Maybe if we spent less time chatting.
Same guy.
Okay.
Yep. Just put it up there if you want.
Okay. I would suggest that we refund you and you go with integrated engineering, and they can deal with you and your annoyingness. We're not wasting time by chatting. That's just bullshit thing that you just came up with. We do this 1 hour a week live chat. Hundreds and thousands of our customers find it extremely helpful. The 1 hour we spend doesn't actually take away any output from our tuning or engineering efforts. Nate and I both work a lot more than 40 hours a week, so you're annoying and you're not happy, and so we should get you out of our tune, and you can go with another option out there, and then they can deal with you. All right. Following up to B9 E85 cold misfires, it got cold down here recently. That sounds like what I just saw this weekend. Would you recommend sending some logs? And how cold are you talking in terms of ambient temp for boost reduction?
It's not really a switch. It's a linear progression down. So it's just gonna be that we're trying to target the same amount of air mass regardless of temperature. Generally, most applications, what we'll do is try and give it a little more when it gets colder, from an air mass standpoint, just because it's kind of a freebie. You get thicker, better, more air, you can make a little more power. But in this case, we're at the limit of what the fueling can do. So
I mean, if you're seeing anything below 40 degrees, certainly below 30 degrees into the freezing temps, and like Nate said, it is linear. It's not like exponential. It's linear to the rate of density increase. If the density increase of air is linear with temperature, then so will the fuel demand issue. Yes, it would be for all B9 3.0 Ts. Currently, if you're experiencing it, like I said, add what do you think, a gallon of 91?
I don't have any recommendation there because I don't know what his content is at right now.
Yeah, if you have a content meter, I would start with that and check it. If it's high, know that you could bring it down to close to E60, E65. So you could try that initially and mix it down to about E65 and see if the misfires go away. That's the temporary solution that we can recommend. Eventually, you won't have to do this once we release this update.
Yeah, and that update's coming fairly soon. But yeah, if you want to, like I said, a fix for now.
Yeah.
If you know your ethanol content, that's it.
I mean, some of you guys could be driving around in minus 10 degree weather. I mean, it's the density of air in minus 10 degrees is so much more than at 70 degrees.
Yeah.
Now it's 52 degrees here, which is cold for around here, but we're never going to see those kind of temps that a lot of you guys see in other states and countries. So,
Another fault.
will there be an opportunity for a stage 1 or stage 2 upgraded high pressure fuel pump tune that allows you to maximize the denser air?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So this is the third. I didn't really get into this, but you're right. When we can provide a high pressure, high flow fuel pump,
All pump.
Option, then this completely goes away, and we can add more fuel at those really low dense air temps, and we can accommodate that. So absolutely, that's not on the table right now. We hope possibly in the next 6 months to have more hardware options on the market for that, but we don't have it yet. So, but the engineering solution is the same. We either lower boost pressure, or you lower E85 contents, or we increase the fuel system capacity.
Yep.
These sessions are great. Wish more companies were more transparent like this. Keep up the good work. It's all appreciated. Happy holidays.
Cool.
Thank you.
That's why we do it.
That's we appreciate hearing that. From our perspective, it's not always easy to be put in this position, especially when people are unreasonable or troll us or whatever. And it's I'll be honest. For a long time, I'm a pretty confident person, but I didn't necessarily want to be put in a position of being in front of hundreds of people at a time, having every little thing I say critiqued and possibly scrutinized.
Yep.
But we did see the huge plus side of it, the huge benefit of it, and we continue to see that. And hearing comments like that really mean a lot and encourage us to keep going. But it has had a very positive effect on the business overall. And I'm just pleased that Nate and I can do this. We can say relatively accurate things about all these various topics.
Keep in mind too, and something we maybe need to iterate a little more. These are all off the cuff answers.
We don't prepare for any of these.
As you can see, if you want to watch all the streams coming in from Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, and you'll see these questions are coming from all over the place.
Yeah.
We're not sitting here with prepped answers and researched information. This is literally off the cuff, trying to get you some feedback as quickly as we can.
Yeah. And someone says, +1, these streams are amazing and super helpful for the community. If this were on Twitch, I'd sub. Thank you. I don't know what
sub on YouTube. You can sub on Instagram.
Is that like OnlyFans? Should we start an OnlyFans? It's been suggested.
Fade to black here.
Something about DILFs, the DILF channel. Thanks for elaborating. Appreciate you guys doing these sessions. Yeah, no, we appreciate you being here. And
yeah, how often do you get a direct link kind of to a company you're hopefully enjoying product from.
Yeah. Oh, here's a good question. How do I get my father-in-law to stop smoking his steaks and switch back to charcoal? Well, this is an interesting question, and it depends what kind of meat we're talking about, right? So, if by steak, which I think the most common definition would be, you're talking about, New York strip, filet mignon, you know, just the various kind of steaks that you would cook to, say, like a medium or medium rare and eat them like that, ribeye. Then yes, I agree. You either need charcoal or you need a smoker, say like a pellet smoker, that can generate high heat. And so I have a pellet smoker that has a movable panel, and that movable panel can generate substantially more heat for searing and cooking than for any charcoal grill could. Now it's in a very small, it's about an 8 by 8 inch square area, as opposed to a charcoal grill, which you could get the whole thing smoking hot. But I can do steaks really nicely in my smoker, which is like Pit Boss or Traeger, some of the brands like that. Now, if we're talking about, if you're considering, like pot roast or, some kind of chuck or,
So it's a dry aged tomahawk. That's
a dry aged tomahawk would be a steak, and yes,
steak.
you would
It's
want
just
to use high heat. God, I'm totally blanking. What's brisket? Then that is the kind of thing you want to do in a smoker. It's beef. It's not steak.
Tri-tip.
Tri-tip I think is kind of one of these in the middle.
Yeah.
Like you can smoke it or you can grill it, but tri-tip's really best served, in my opinion, at like a medium to medium well. Typically, tri-tip, if there's any pink, that part of it is tough.
Yeah.
And so once you kind of cook it through until it's just maybe like just barely pink, but mostly like medium, I would say medium well, which would be like 140 degrees internal temp or something. Anyways, but yeah, it sounds like your father-in-law needs to get a better smoker, one with a panel in the firebox.
Somebody's asking me for selling smokers now. Nope, just trying to
I'm
help.
not selling them, but I would strongly recommend anyone buy a pellet smoker if you don't have one. And again, you want the ones with the movable panel. It's the best of all the worlds. We talk about compromises a lot.
Can I get a downpipe and a smoker?
Yes. And two separate products, preferably. Javad's new series, Ask Zaddy. Someone double dares me to start a DILF-only channel. I mean, why not? Let's see. If you get turned on by listening to car talk, I could definitely do that. If Audi gets into F1 like they are rumored to, would you try to get 034 Motorsport on their car as a sponsor? Probably not. F1 budgets are just insane.
Sponsorship on an F1 platform, particularly at a level that if Audi were to enter, they would be competing in.
So what's McLaren's budget for F1 every year? It's like $500 million.
They're supposedly
They're supposed to be getting
100
capped
million,
now. Yeah.
but there's so many.
100 million?
They're 140 million. That came in this past
Yeah.
year.
Okay.
But there's so many.
It was much higher than that in the past, and McLaren alone has like 5,000 employees just in the F1 program. I mean,
It's insane. I don't know if it's that high. It's high.
no, it's
They're
thousands.
budget capping everything.
But no, I don't know. Maybe now. I didn't know about that. But I'm talking about like in the last 5 years. These are major enterprises. So typically sponsorship packages probably start at like 10 million, which is nothing that we would ever do. The other problem for us is from a marketing standpoint, it wouldn't be that valuable. We serve a relatively small niche market, and having every Jacques, Dick, and Thomas in the world hear about our brand wouldn't necessarily sell more Volkswagen, Audi, BMW parts. So, but cool tech, and it would be great to see Audi get into it. Hopefully that technology would trickle down. They've certainly done that with their other types of racing over the years, going back to Quattro, which was developed for racing. So yeah. When are we running to? The 15 after?
Technically 11, 12 after or so if we want to stick it to an hour.
12 after. All right. What's your takeaway on the 8Y S3 so far? I think I talked about this a week or two ago. Really nice car, really new. I really like the tech package. It kind of takes the car to a whole new level. It's a much different, more advanced tech than Audi's ever had. The touch screen, there's haptic touch on the screen, which is really nice. The Apple CarPlay and everything connects wirelessly through Wi-Fi. There's inductive charging in the center console. You just drop your phone in there.
It's like things Kias have had for, I don't know,
I know,
5, 6, 10 years.
I don't know why Audi's been so behind there. Interior quality is fabulous, really nice. Yeah, it's got that nice new car feel. It's slow, you know. It's funny because I got out of that and into our Golf R the other day, which has like what 400
Yeah, it's on
horsepower
our
stage
hybrid
2
turbo.
It's our stage 2.
No, Golf R's hybrid turbo.
Oh, that's right. It's a hybrid turbo. But even stage 2 is, you know,
Yeah.
it's like almost double the power of the stock S3. But yeah, no, a really nice car. I like the way it looks. I was complaining about how skinny the tires were on it the other day, and proceeded to get a flat tire on the way home.
Destroyed them.
There's a particular road I drive on that when it rains, these potholes just emerge from nowhere, and I thought I was being pretty careful steering around them and hit something which I would normally never think twice about, and got the low tire warning, and then started feeling the flat tire almost immediately, and pulled over. Thankfully, Nick came and rescued me in his MILF-mobile, and we put some ZTFs on it with much more sidewall, much more substantial tire. I mean, those are 30 series, right? Stock?
In fact, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
So it's a 235/30/19, and that's just, I'm sorry, it's just not enough tire. I'm not a fan of anything less than a 35, and it's why we even have an 18-inch ZTF, you know, on cars that come stock with 19s and 20s.
Yeah.
As you can get a nice sidewall, it actually handles better. You get better performance. It doesn't look as nice, you know. If you like that skinny tire look, that's the compromise. But
what if we learned so much? TTRS wheels fit the S3.
yes, our TTRS 19 by 9.3s fit the car quite well. The offset's a little wide in the front, but once we put camber plates on it, it should bring it all right in. So yes,
265 squared.
265 all around. So that's pretty freaking cool. That's a lot of tire for an MQB.
Much more than the RS3 previous gen.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is much more tire than RS3, and this isn't even optimal fit. So
This is literally like, hey, those wheels are loose right now. Let's put them on.
And who knows? It might be optimal, but we might even be able to squeeze a 275 in there. It's possible. We'll have to check. DQ381 TCU Tune updates.
We're working on it. I don't have an ETA right now because we're dealing some development vehicle woes.
Yeah, it's being worked on, but it's not going as fast as we would like. We're sorry.
We talk about it a lot, so internally, not just here.
Rolling anti-lag for B9 S4 S5.
Yep, that's going to come along with our advanced launch features. Again, we don't have a definite ETA on that, but it'll be, I don't know,
when we release
quarter
advanced launch control for B9, it will be in there.
Yep. And we actually, we did, I mean, we've been learning a lot and doing a lot with what we've now done for the B8 advanced launch for the AL551, so the ZF8 transmission, which is coming very soon. A lot of that's going to roll over to B9.
B9 3.0 T Stage 2 TCU Tune coming this week? Question mark.
For B9, I believe yes.
We are shooting for something very soon. Yep. Hang in there.
Yep, we're trying to get it wrapped up as quick as we can. We added some more features and changes that we're just finishing up some testing on. So it's the shift speeds and quality look pretty phenomenal so far. You'll like it.
Yeah. I don't usually do this, but there is a little something coming for anyone who's interested in getting into any of our tuning. Stay tuned for the next few days. Our goal is to have a nice little push of tuning sales through to the end of the year. And so we're going to be doing some incentives around that. If you're interested, stay close to our social media for an announcement.
Very soon.
Yes.
We already did the
What's that famous meme? Which is Wednesday, my dudes. Something on that one.
That's a meme.
Yeah.
There's a meme for everything.
There's that one. If you give me a burger today, I will pay you on Tuesday. I think there's also something.
That's also
Yeah. B9 3.0T Stage 2 TCU Tune coming this week. We already answered that one.
Yep.
Yes. So hang tight. Hopefully this week. If we could have released it 2 months ago, we would have. So, and then same question for B8 3.0T ZF8 TCU Tune. Is that coming this week?
Yes.
Will it include ALC anti-launch?
The
Advanced launch control at the same time.
There are two different things. So we developed it so that the ZF8 tune on the transmission doesn't need the advanced launch control, similar to what we did with DL501. But we're testing it, in conjunction with the advanced launch, which is on the ECU side. So yeah, it'll be separate from the advanced launch. You won't require it. It will support our advanced launch stuff on the ECU. And yes, those are still looking to be released this week.
Yes. Any update on the B9 S5 turbo inlet pipe? We're going to have two versions. We will have one OE replacement version, which will just replace the stock unit. And then we are coming out with, a super duper version. The super duper version is more super dupery than the standard version. And it's a substantial increase in cross-sectional flow area from the intake through to the throttle body, and it will accommodate all hybrid turbo options on the market. Unlike the, CTS or whoever sells just the bolt-in ones, those are designed to use with stock, and you would have to try to port them out. And of course, there's only enough material to go so much bigger. So our super duper unit will accommodate all current aftermarket turbo options, and even gives us options in the future to do even bigger if that's the case. It will also require, if you have our intakes, we will require you to purchase a new connector piece for any of our intakes, because again, the cross-sectional flow area is substantially bigger than factory. So our initial standard drop-in version will be out relatively soon. I think we're waiting on a prototype currently. That we could possibly be releasing that in 3 months or something like that. And then the super duper is coming after that. Okay. But our goal is as we create hybrid stage 3 tuning, that our intakes and our flow system will not be restrictive. Our intakes already have very high flowing air filters, and then we will increase the cross-sectional flow area through to the throttle body. It'll be a really nice setup, really clean. How much can a fully stock motor S4 handle? There's people out there running around 700 wheel. The issue isn't really horsepower, it's the torque. And we believe that we're probably, we haven't verified this with a blown engine, but we believe that we're at a practical torque limit with our current stage 1 and stage 2 tuning. So the good news is stage 3 and bigger turbos will produce more horsepower than the current stage 1 options, but the torque will drop just as a function of the bigger turbos spooling up later and producing power later in the power mode. So who knows? I mean, the stock motor might handle 1,000 wheel with 500 foot-pounds of wheel torque. Who knows? We don't know. But but I don't think anyone really knows what the limit is yet. But from my perspective, I would say you should be cautious and keep things to about where we're at with torque, which is just over 600 pound-feet of torque.
Thanks.
I just want to thank you all for not charging some imaginary supercar tax on your RA parts just because it's an RA like every other company does. Oh, we appreciate it. I mean, we have to take that into consideration. the R8 program is lower volume. You know, we're never going to sell the numbers that we would.
Yeah, it's tough because it's going to be more expensive because it's the same or more engineering that goes into it for a lower.
I would say more. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long.
The amount of work we did on the suspension stuff on that was, I mean, we're talking what, a dozen plus track days alone. Never mind all of our normal testing.
Yeah, and I've talked about this before. That car is so good stock that we couldn't just sneeze at it to make it better like we could with a GTI or an S4. You know, the R8 is already extremely good. So we're operating more in the margins on the improvements we're making. We were able to make a substantial, I would say, transformative program for the car. We're just rolling the parts out, and hopefully in the next few months we'll be able to offer do the full release and offer a complete package. But yeah, I mean, as far as like our brake rotors aren't priced really any differently. Some of the inserts are the same. And honestly, we'd appreciate if you help us get the word out. You know, we're just starting to trickle the program. But I'd love to see every R8 in the US with the Dynamic Plus suspension package on it. So it is truly, you don't need coilovers, you don't need $5,000 Öhlins, whatever, unless you're racing and you really need that level of adjustability. Our car, I would put our car with our springs and sway bars and the rest of our suspension modifications up against any of those, you know, suspensions for a fraction of the price, especially for street driving, but even on track. I think the lap times would be very, very close, if not the same, or possibly better. If you have a $6,000 coilover system that has, you know, rebound and compression all screwed up,
Yeah, if it hasn't been adjusted correctly,
then our kit will clean the floor with it. But that's great feedback. It's really good to hear. The R8 program is close to my heart. I really love that car, and I'm really proud of the work we did on that program. Okay, we have about 10 minutes.
couple minutes left.
Any advice if swapping to APR or R8 coil packs is an upgrade on a B8 S5? Okay, this is I always have to be careful, but we've actually done some testing on some of these options, and they are not upgrades. They actually have less spark energy than the stock coils. So my advice for you is there's nothing wrong with your stock coils. I don't know how they compare to R8 coils. I don't. We haven't tested R8 coils.
We haven't exhaustively tested every coil, every OEM coil out there, but I think what I imagine is happening with most of these situations is you're replacing a old coil. You know, that's, I don't know, these go back quite a ways now for the 2-liter stuff, but it could be you had a coil that was on the way out already.
But have you ever actually heard of anyone fixing an ignition problem by using an APR coil?
Yes, because they were probably replacing a faulty coil
But you've heard of that?
a weakened coil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same,
It's like I've got misfires. I put new coils in, and I don't have misfires now. Like if you've got a compromised ignition system with your factory coils, chances are really good you put new.
My question is, so the APR coils are different colors.
They are.
So if you want a blue or a red or whatever, that's what APR offers, and you can get a different color coil. But what I'm asking is there broad-based consensus that you can push perfectly good stock ignition coils to some kind of ignition limit, and then you upgrade to APR coils, and your problem is solved. I haven't seen that.
That's what they pitch, but I haven't.
Well, that's the pitch, no question. That's what APR says, but I've seen no evidence that their coils are any better than perfectly working stock coils. Right. And actually, we know
from an electrical engineering perspective, tests power delivery, spark energy delivery,
the currents,
the current consumption, current use, they were less efficient and produced a weaker spark essentially than a new OEM coil.
Yeah. So we were going to go out and create a higher performing coil that could produce that could actually produce. I think they say it's 10%.
We had this program.
It's definitely not
for
10%.
A while. Because we've done coils previously, and thankfully Audi factory coils started getting much better than they were in the early.
The first generation
coil unplug stuff was
like the Mark 5 FSI. I mean, those were garbage. Yeah. And even going back to 180 stuff, they were garbage. The new coils are good. So listen, if you have a B8 you don't need to upgrade your coils unless you want to look at a different color coil under your hood. But then just be careful knowing that you're going to be trading the color for some potential spark energy.
Yep.
It'll probably still run just fine because the coil, the spark energy produced by these coils is substantially more than the engine needs, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, it's the color and that's it. And then you're trading for the strength of the spark. But we set out to actually make something that's actually 10% higher, and it's really not possible in the size and format of that coil. A coil that actually produces 10% more energy doesn't fit in that housing.
You need dimensional changes on the coil to.
So it would be a matter of like increasing the kind of envelope or size of the
or cooling. We looked at
cooling it, because the heat it produces too.
Yeah, the heat generation is too high. If you do pack more into that size, so then you need some sort of more active cooling.
So we're going to come out with an OEM strength coil that are different colors, because from what I understand, people really like to change the colors of their coils. And if you have a factory coil that goes bad, which does happen. Mm-hmm. Or has degraded performance because of its age, then we will have a perfectly suitable replacement that's different colors. But there are no upgrades on the market that we've seen, and honestly, there's no need for it. I mean, you have guys with 1,000, 1,200 horsepower RS3s running those coils.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know where they're 10%. Well, I guess if they only measured current going in, maybe that's where they think their 10% increase came. Because they draw more current than
they
stock,
do. They do draw more current,
but the power coming out is
yes.
So I mean, it's just a less efficient coil.
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not 10% better,
right,
in any way, other than if maybe the color is 10% better to your eyes. I'm not sure on what the percentage of that is. Just got like a minute left.
Yeah.
Went to the A0s for an event with your stage 2 tune on my B9.5 S4. I have all bolt-on mods, but numbers were crazy lower than a B9 S4 there with the same setup. Why?
You need to email us and we'll help you troubleshoot. That's impossible to answer.
There would be no way that we could say accurately.
We need to see logs in order for your setup. We've had cars here with various boost leaks, compromised installs.
It could be that there's a squirrel inside your airbox blocking and shrouding the air.
There's so many things that it could be that are impossible to know.
20s and the other guys are 18s.
Well, yeah, that's a little.
We don't even know like what the power difference is actually. Are we talking about? Is it 4 horsepower difference? We don't have enough information. But that doesn't matter what we can say or think in this setting. You can email tuning@034motorsport. They could do logs with you. We will evaluate it. And, if there's a problem, we will get it figured out.
We're pretty much
out of time. Will you be selling turbo packages for Stage 3 B9 3.0 T? Or yes, we will offer full Stage 3 kits, and with tuning support and hardware support. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us for yet another week, and I think we'll be here again next week.
No, I won't be.
So
if somebody else wants to.
Oh, we can talk.
Take the helm. We'll figure that out. But
we'll figure it out. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, cheers, guys.
Regardless, happy holidays.
Thanks again. Yeah, happy holidays. God, Christmas is just happening this week.
Here, yep.
Wow. All right. Well, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays. Thanks, guys.